As fantasy football guys, we pretty much are fake GMs for a living, but this time we're actually going to put on our real fake GM hats. Me, Ian Harditz here. We're going to make the 10 NFL offseason moves that we'd personally like to see. We got some offensive players, some defensive players here. I just wanted to give a big shout out to Ian. I like to work hard, and there's one guy that I'm always chasing for who's just posting more content out there, grinding more tape than me, and this guy, Ian. What do you drink in the morning to get that type of energy?
Way too much coffee, Hayden. I've even, because I feel bad about like brewing a second pot of coffee. So now like I'll walk down the street and get one from a coffee shop because in my mind that makes it somehow more acceptable. But now I got my hazelnut brew going on. But you're very kind. Hayden was telling me before the show, you know, every time I go to your Twitter and YouTube and everything you're doing, man, absolutely crushing. But let's face it, man, both of us are at the end of the day just, you know, little pebbles. The true GOAT is Evan Silva.
Yes.
So, you know, shout out to the big dog.
That's right. That's right. Lots of Roto World connections over here. So I think to me, the biggest player for the NFL offseason, it doesn't sound like that to everybody right now because he's coming off a disastrous season. I do still think it's Kyler Murray, and he's not a free agent yet. The Cardinals have to figure out exactly what they want to do with him. They can cut him outright. They can trade him. I think they would have to take on some of the money in order to do that. But I think that just the GM who they retained, he's pretty much over the Kyler Murray experience. I'm guessing the owner is as well. New head coach in there. So they got something out of Jacoby Brissett, who's back there. So we need to find a landing spot for Kyler Murray. So drum roll, please, Ian. Kyler Murray, your favorite landing spot is?
The Jets. Sounds so bad to say, but I think it's the Jets.
Jets. Man. Oh, okay. Explain it. I got something different.
I think Frank Reich, even though it wasn't very inspiring hire, we've seen what he can do, RPO heavy offense. I think that's probably getting the most out of Kyler there. And as much as I have a hard time looking at the Jets and it's like, we got to go back to Namath, Chad Pennington, you know, like every single quarterback that goes there ends up being horrible. Same thing with Cleveland. And at some point I'm starting to wonder, oh, maybe it's actually the organization that has a problem. So I know it's the Jets. Garrett Wilson, I believe in A.D. Mitchell. Maybe they bring back Breece Hall. We believe what he can do in the passing game. They just spent, you know, a pair of high first round picks on offensive tackles. Like, I feel like if we looked at the Jets offensive roster and we put a different logo on it, we wouldn't be quite as scared away here.
Yeah, I think the offensive line, they got some like really key pieces. Like Armand Membu is going to be a hit. They're just in general, the offensive line is actually better than what I think it's given credit for. I got a different Jets quarterback solution down the line, a little bit kind of out of left field after doing some more research. But I think that Kyler Murray to the Jets makes a lot of sense. Like they ran into the issue. There's no quarterback to take at second overall. They have all these picks in the future, and apparently the next class is going to be better at quarterback. We hear that literally every single year. We heard that literally for this draft, and that didn't come to fruition. But there's also like there's Mannings into the next years. So yeah, they're going to be kind of stuck. They're going to have to do one of these bridge quarterbacks. I would view Kyler Murray as more than a bridge quarterback. Like to me, I do still think that there is a ceiling to chase. Like I don't know, like the 20th best quarterback with I think some flashes of top 10 upside. That's kind of where I'm at with Kyler Murray. It kind of comes and goes. I'm a little bit nervous that post injury, you're just not going to see the same like explosiveness out of him. Maybe it's a new system that's going to help him out. But just like in general, where are you at with like Kyler Murray, like moving forward?
It was hard last year. Because that was the worst we've ever seen him as a passer, and it wasn't particularly close. I mean, because it's been a while since we've had, you know, the 2020, 2021 heights and everything. You know, post DeAndre Hopkins, it hasn't been pretty, but it was an extra full year removed from the ACL injury. It was actually good to see him get his rushing yards and kind of attempts per game back, you know, into a good spot. So every year, you know, it's like Lamar and Kyler, you know, they're going to run less, they're going to run more. We kind of got that going on each time. But I do think if we can just get, hopefully not career worst passing numbers like last year and just get halfway there, then you add on the rushing part. And I feel like that's kind of what we almost don't fully take, not credit, but we don't fully give those quarterbacks enough credit for what they can do to a team's run game. And I actually took some time last summer to look at this. And I know you use a lot, but the running backs yards before contact per carry, I think it's a pretty good proxy for offensive run blocking. And I actually went back, got 40 seasons worth of data of, you know, the dual threat quarterbacks, Tyrod Taylor's, Fields, Lamar Jackson's, all that. The average rank from those teams was 11.4, which is pretty darn good in running back rush yards before contact. Median rank 9.4. 28 of the 40 seasons actually end up again producing an above average rank. So when you add someone like Kyler to an offense, yeah, maybe the passing game is always going to be average to below average, but man, you can build a lethal run game with these guys. And I think that goes underappreciated.
Yeah, I mean, you saw like with Derrick Henry, he had his like best season, I think, per carry was the first year with Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson. I like do not think that's a coincidence. And they had some like really good offensive lines in Tennessee too. So you see that all the time. Yeah, it was a really weird season from Kyler Murray, but I still just looking at the landscape, not the craziest free agency period out there. We're gonna get to Maxx Crosby in a little bit. I think that he's also like one of these like sneaky headline guys where
Mm.
if he actually is moved and like the rumors are true, I do think that like Kyler Murray, Maxx Crosby, like these are going to be some of the biggest headliners out there. Buy the dip on Kyler Murray in fantasy. I think that he's going to get a full season or two, depending on his contract.
Real quick,
Mhm.
if you guys,
Yeah.
I know we're on the Underdog Show, right? I'm drafting you guys. I'm over there on the
Mhm.
treadmill right now. Like
Okay.
right now, Kyler Murray and Malik Willis have no business going as like the QB 25, 26. There's
Okay.
the uncertainty with where they're going to be, but wherever they land, they're going to be starters and they're just going to be top 15. So we're not, I know we all understand Russian quarterbacks, put up fantasy points. It's not rocket science. So just those two guys right now are crazy. But hey, did you say your team for Kyler?
Yeah. I want the Steelers for Kyler
Okay.
Murray. So this is, to me, it's anything but Aaron Rodgers back to the Steelers. I mean, I find Aaron Rodgers at this point like the least interesting quarterback. There's like no ceiling to chase anymore. I've seen him play forever. The way that he plays nowadays is not very good. The situation
Sad.
that he was in last year, because the Steelers' offensive line was actually really, really good, like great center, great tackle play, like veterans at guard as well. And I wasn't moved, man. Like, I can't do this again with Mike McCarthy. So I want something else. The Steelers are ninth in cap space right now. I do think that Kyler Murray having a great offensive line, especially a great center to kind of sort things out. I think he'll probably be able to handle pressure a little bit better than he did in Arizona, or just straight up not be under pressure at all. Also, I think the best moments for Kyler Murray was just throw the ball up down the field, and that's what DK Metcalf is best at as well. That's like the only guy they can throw the ball to right now. That's one potential problem here. But there's like never in a position to draft a quarterback. That's once again the case here. I think for next year, if they like got Aaron Rodgers back in the mix, like they're still probably not going to be picking inside the top 5, top 10 to draft a quarterback. So I think at this point, I would try to do the Sam Darnold Seahawks thing with Kyler Murray and hope that you can hit kind of just like buying low and just chasing a little bit of it, like a downfield ceiling. So
highest potential upside pairing. And also, I mean, let's face it, the training camp pictures of Kyler next to Darnell Washington would be absolute, cinema. So
that'd be amazing. That would be amazing. Yeah. I mean, you just look at the size of him. Like you clearly need a great offensive line. I think that's like one of the things I like kind of gotten like pretty woke about is the height for quarterbacks. It does matter. It doesn't eliminate quarterbacks, but if you're pretending that they can see the middle of the field as well as a 6'6" quarterback, like go read a physics book for once in your life. Like it just makes sense. So him not being like walked back by because they have a great center, I think would be pretty helpful for Kyler Murray. Because you mentioned Malik Willis, let's just go straight to Malik Willis here. What's your best landing spot for him?
So I think when you look at the quarterback needy teams, Raiders are taking Mendoza. We kind of talked about the Jets and the Steelers. The Browns are always out there. We got the Dolphins and Cardinals, depending on who they're going to trade. Not exactly looking great. I think the two top teams are the Colts and the Vikings. Okay. Colts probably bringing back Daniel Jones. That's kind of seemingly what all the reports are indicating. So is there any way that we can get Malik Willis to the Minnesota Vikings? I know they don't have a ton of cap room.
In division.
Hawkins, in division, yeah. So again, but if he's a free agent, I'm not asking for a trade at this point. So I think it's possible, man. That would be like amazing. The best spot. Okay, so like Cardinals, yeah, they got decent trio: McBride, Marvin, Michael Wilson, I guess. The Browns, you got Todd Monken, but my God, I saw you point out like the offensive line was already horrible, and now they got to replace everyone with it. So not loving that. I just think out of all these places, other than the Colts that are probably filled, the Vikings are the best one, and I don't want to watch JJ McCarthy play football anymore. Let's get Malik Willis out there and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I have a different solution for the Vikings as well. I want Malik Willis on the Miami Dolphins. This is like the one where I really wanted this with Mike McDaniel because the run game and just like how they like use like weaponizing their offensive line out in space. Like you can also do that with like some of the quarterback power stuff. It'd be so much fun. Him and Etienne, like talking about that same study that you just did with the Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray's with the running back yards before contact. Imagine Devon Etienne with Malik Willis and like a center and a left tackle that are like pretty much a 4x100 team on the offensive line. Like that would have been sick. I still think it would still be pretty sick just because the GM, the head coach come from Green Bay. They're familiar with them. It seems like Green Bay Packers absolutely love Malik Willis. It seems like the fan base loves Malik Willis. Like, it's just one of these situations where I do think that he's earned the right to be a starter. I had some pretty crazy stats on Malik Willis in our free agency video. He's like top 3, top 5 in EPA per play and like completion percentage over expected over like the last 2 years.
I think he's
Pretty wild
number
stuff.
1.
It's crazy. Like, and there's traits too. It's not that it's just like, oh, maybe he just like some scammer, like Shanahan system guy that like runs hot, like what, like all those, like the Nick Mullins, like empty calorie stats. Like, he can sling the ball. Like, really, there's some of those weather games where the ball was not being moved whatsoever. Now he would be able to go do it in Miami where his speed can actually shine. So we got to find somebody in Miami because I can't watch Tua anymore as well. So I think Malik Willis for the Dolphins would be fun.
And I don't know about you, but I thought his performance this year was less fluky, less kind of scheme dependent than the 2 games we saw in 2024. ADOT in those ones just 7.5. It was at 9.7 this past season. You said it, man. Downfield bombs to Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs. Like, was out there doing the damn thing. And actually, I was researching this, show last night, trying to get my P's and Q's ready and all that. And it was crazy because sometimes at night, Hayden, if I'm winding down, maybe I'll take an edible at the beginning of the, kind of study session, and we'll see how things go like an hour in. So I'm looking at Malik Willis and I'm trying to remember how good these drives were. And I start going drive by drive and I'm like, this dude, he has not appeared in a drive that finished in a punt since 2014, man. He went 17 for 17 this last season on drives, not ending with a punt. He had 3 passing touchdowns, 3 field goals, all within the 10-yard line, I might add. They were long drives, 3 kneel downs, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 bad snap exchanges. He took a headshot. That was pretty embarrassing. Josh Jacobs fumbled, Josh Jacobs stuffed, and then a sack to go to OT. Like, it's a small sample, but my God, what else could the guy have done in that sample?
Yeah, so I think with him for free agency, it's just like, what is the dollar amount? What's the guaranteed dollars into the future? Is it a 1-year contract? Like, I think like the one from last year was Justin Fields, where obviously the Jets are regretting that. That was 2 years, but the second year had a $10 million in guaranteed money as well. I think that Malik Willis should make more money than Justin Fields on that contract. I think Justin Fields had played more, but you also saw that it was not working, where Malik Willis has played less, but there's maybe a chance this actually could work for us. So I think it's going to be a very interesting contract there. I think there's a chance he can get maybe 2 years guaranteed here, but I think that he deserves more money than the Daniel Jones from last year, the Justin Fields contract, some of these like really like low end bridge quarterback money. I wouldn't be surprised if he got like $35 million guaranteed or something like that, and we can actually see him into a second year. It sounds crazy, but you got to count to 32 starting quarterbacks every single year. And I think by the time you get there, I would say Malik Willis' name.
And if you miss out on him and you can't get a Kyler or Tua trade done, who's your next best option? Marcus Mariota? Is it a Geno Smith? Is it one of these guys? So
let's go over to Geno Smith. Geno Smith, not a good season from him. A couple years ago, it was very good seasons from him. He's, I think, going to be 36 years old. It's going to be a very, very, very cheap contract for him. He's technically can get traded. The Raiders could also like look at his contract and just be like, you know what, we're keeping him as an expensive backup for a rookie. I think most likely he's going to be gone. So where do you think Geno Smith should go?
I saw you and Josh going with the Vikings. I saw a lot of Vikings fans were mad. I don't know what the heck they're expecting. Again, other than someone like Malik Willis, I think you can argue Geno is one of the best ones out there. So if you want to go with the Vikings, I totally get that. I would like to see, I think Geno Smith's name should be on the Browns QB jersey at one point in time. Like he's just put in.
Wow.
Like
you are so right.
Of that at some point. Cardinals feels a little like overkill. They still got Jacoby Brissett under center. I don't know if we need to really bring Geno there. So I'll throw the Browns out there. I do think, again, the lack of an offensive line is going to be a problem for anyone. But Tom Munkin, more of a downfield passing mentality, like that could bring out the better parts of Geno. And it is one of these things where I look at the Raiders and it's like we make so many excuses, deservedly so, for someone like Ashton Jetty. How are you going to do anything behind that offensive line? How is anyone going to do anything in that scheme? And it's like Geno probably deserves at least a little bit of that, acceptance as well with what was going down there. So not saying that he would, not a top 10 quarterback, everyone, including myself. I thought that could be true. Obviously proven wrong, but that just because he wasn't a top 10 quarterback this year doesn't make what he did the previous 3 years in Seattle completely obsolete, man. So again, even if we get somewhere in between those two things, to your point, like I actually tried to go through and like rank the number of quarterbacks definitively better. I got into the early 20s. And you know what? Again, when there's not that many good options out there, like I think that's warranted.
I agree. I think I would put Geno Smith inside my top 32 quarterbacks, even after the disastrous season. Your boy Chip Kelly comes in there, like could not handle the NFL again. And then for whatever reason, Geno Smith just loved throwing it to sitting safeties and linebackers this year, which he has done. That kind of comes and goes, but I want him on the Vikings. And the more I thought about this since Josh initially said it, the more it makes sense. Number one, the Vikings cap situation is a stone cold disaster to the point where I think they're going to have to straight up release TJ Hawkinson and Aaron Jones to save like $7 million, which is like a big deal to them because they have no money, but you don't want to move on from TJ Hawkinson to save $7 million. They're that desperate right now. So they can't go and get, I don't think like the Malik Willis types, because I'm not sure if they have the freaking money for this because they went all in the last offseason. So I think you can bring Geno Smith in for cheap, and Geno Smith could teach 9 how to start your career really ugly and then hopefully turn this thing around. Like that's exactly what Geno Smith has done. Like maybe there's like a little motivation, kind of like a mentorship thing going on with like, hey, I was booted out of there really early on in my career. And if you keep putting in the work, and then maybe you can kind of get this thing back around. I think on top of that, Kevin O'Connell's offense, we saw this with Sam Darnold. I think that we saw this with JJ McCarthy when he was taking a lot of sacks. They're so dependent on staying in the pocket and throwing the ball down the field. And it's like post route, post route, post route, post route without like a lot of checkdowns. You better have the stones to throw the ball down the field. And that's exactly what Geno Smith does. Like that's like what his calling card is. He's going to throw the freaking post route. He's going to throw some big go balls out there. There's going to be some crazy interceptions, just like we saw with Sam Darnold, some ugly sacks, but you got to be able to rip the ball down the field. And that's like what Geno Smith could do. So I would love Geno Smith with the Vikings. I really hope this one happens just for Justin Jefferson's sake.
If they don't decide to go kind of the veteran bridge quarterback route, because, you know, we're going to talk about Derek Carr soon. You got Kirk Cousins, maybe Rodgers goes somewhere else. I'm with you. Geno makes sense there. Is there like a backup young quarterback, though, who you would like to see get the shot? We still got Tanner McKee chilling in Philly. Jalen Milroe, like, what do they really need him for in Seattle anymore? He did some fun things. Anthony Richardson had that moment with KOC a couple years ago. Like, I feel like one of those guys could be the sneaky trade candidate, whether it's to Minnesota, maybe the Rams, like one of these teams where, again, you actually want to bring in some. Rams not competition for Stafford. They need a long-term answer. But I just wonder if KOC wants the bridge or if he wants like a young quarterback to actually push McCarthy like right now and then also tomorrow.
Interesting. Yeah, I think Anthony Richardson would be very interesting there. Jalen Milroe, I agree. Like Sam Darnold, he's going to probably sign a big extension, or even if he doesn't, he's already under contract for the next couple of years, and he's clearly not going anywhere, probably for the rest of his career at this point. So I would like to see Jalen Milroe somewhere. Tanner McKee's interesting because this next year is when the Eagles kind of have, like, they can't really do anything with these contracts. The Jalen Hurts contract, the AJ Brown contract, it'd be pretty hard to get out of, even like with trades with those guys. But after that year, you can reset and like maybe you want to keep Tanner McKee around for one more year. But I do think Tanner McKee would be a very interesting kind of dart throw. Unfortunately, all these guys, the Mac Jones, Tanner McKee's, Jacoby Brissett that everyone keeps mentioning, those guys are under contract. I think they're probably too valuable to move on. The guy that doesn't have a contract right now is Derek Carr. Derek Carr apparently is open to playing after sitting out last year after shoulder surgery, did not want to go back to the club. Really interesting situation coming off of a major injury at his age. This thing we can get to training camp and it's just like, yeah, it's just not going to work out. Or Derek Carr, you count to 32 quarterbacks and he's on the damn list. So how do you see Derek Carr, and do you see a landing spot for him? I mean, you're allowed to say retirement or being on the Fantasy Life show.
I don't know, man. We'd have to work some things out because he's having me blocked on Twitter for quite a long time. So I want to hear an explanation.
Well, that's
from
everybody.
Mr. Carr. That's true. And honestly, probably warranted in his right there. So I will say, man, the last time we saw Carr, it was pretty good, actually. And I know we got to do that thing where it's like, oh, look at the first 2 games with Kubiak, you know, when before everyone got injured. But they were pretty nice. And just even overall in the year, man, EPA per dropback, 14th out of 42 quarterbacks. Yards per attempt, 10th. Completion percentage over expected, 11th. Success rate was 30th. And I think that kind of reflects that a lot of this was, you know, kind of boomer bust bombs to Olave and Shaheed. But why can't he kind of go in and be, I don't know, a middle-class man's version of Darnold at this point? I don't think, you know, we're seeing any team sign Derek Carr and then all of a sudden thinking, oh, you know, now suddenly we're a Super Bowl contender. The Steelers swap out Rodgers for Carr. Like, that's not really moving the needle too much for me. It might be an upgrade for sure, but I'm not, you know, scared of them in January all of a sudden. So, you know, I already said the Browns, but that probably would be the one spot again, just to, throw them there and let them waste away. I didn't say the Dolphins, so maybe we could go with that one. So I'm interested. You did mention the shoulder injury. I know he went the non-surgical route, so it does seem like he gave himself enough time to get away from that. He is still technically under contract with the Saints, but from what I was reading, he kind of deferred some of his guarantees, and it's a situation where he can probably get away from them without too much, spite from ownership or anything. So did not expect us to be talking about Derek Carr still, but 35 in March, we're watching Joe Flacco still throw for over 400 yards. So crazier things have happened. Literally, look at Phillip Rivers. It's not as crazy as it might have seemed, a few short years ago.
Yeah, those are all good points. I didn't realize that he didn't opt for surgery, which I'm not sure if I like more or less out there. Modern medicine and advancement's pretty good out there, but yeah. I think it's one of these situations, man. You watch enough quarterbacks, by the time week 8 rolls around and stuff, you're like, you'll be happy Derek Carr's back in the league, man. More options is better. My answer to Derek Carr, I think Derek Carr should join the Jets, and I think Derek Carr will join the Jets. And I think they're actually making their intentions pretty clear at this point. And I think it makes sense for Derek Carr because they got that offensive line that we talked about. You talked about Garrett Wilson and Adonai Mitchell. I think Breece Hall will return. So that's the worst offense to go be a part of. They don't have another option at second overall right now. They got future draft picks, so you can be a legit bridge quarterback for a year or two. You can draft your guy Arvell Reese at second overall. But on top of that, Derek Carr was on a podcast and he said that he speaks to Aaron Glenn frequently. And then he also made sure to follow up when he's allowed to, which I think this would be the legal tampering period. So he's kind of covering his bases.
I love Aaron Glenn.
I love Aaron
Glenn's a
Glenn.
good friend.
Great golfer, good friend.
Okay. Love Aaron Glenn.
Yeah.
Okay. I talk to him whenever it's viable. All right. Okay. I love Aaron Glenn. Okay.
It might be viable soon.
Okay.
Your green sweatshirt.
You're wearing green?
Yeah.
Mine was for Christmas tree.
Yeah, me too.
All right. Listen.
And then also, Bill Musgrave was hired to be the quarterback coach. That was Derek Carr's offensive coordinator for multiple years back with the Raiders. So I don't know. This one makes a lot of sense. They were joking about this on a podcast. I don't think that he would do that unless there was actually some smoke here. So I think this would be a pretty fun fit, at least for Garrett Wilson out there. So Jets, Derek Carr. I think this one's actually going to happen.
A.D. Mitchell, truth or status? That guy's good, man. Come on. I know you watched that all 22. You see those routes. He gets the hardest thing for any wide receiver to do is consistently get open against man coverage. And he does that.
He does that. One of my favorite social moments, I forget who it was. They posted, and it easily could have been you. It
was Mike Renner.
Right before it was Mike Renner.
Yeah.
All the highlights right until he had to catch the football. And man, you're like, wow, this looks like a Hall of Fame talent out there. But yeah, that's a perfect reason. You need to evaluate Adonai Mitchell. You're gonna have to give him an extension after what he does this year. Same thing with John Mechie, and they have the young tight end as well. You got to get a functional quarterback to figure out what the hell is going on with the offense. And I think that Derek Carr would at least allow you to do that. And Derek Carr's probably not good enough to prevent you from being, one of these top 5 draft pick teams next year when we're going to have apparently 4 or 5 quarterbacks come out worthy of a high selection. So that would be, I think, all categories of this, am I fired up that Derek Carr is going to be an NFL starting quarterback potentially again? I'm not. Am I going to be thankful for it? By the time the season rolls around, I think the answer to that is actually yes. I didn't bring up Justin Fields because this is Ohio State guy. I love Justin Fields. The prospect is just not worked out. Is there any expectations for Justin Fields rest of career? He's just going to be hanging around as a backup, and we'll see him for a couple starts here and there.
I like to, when I'm watching film of prospects, it's thinking about what was the best single game performance this year. It might be we'll see. Dan Brugler said Trinidad Champ probably not coming out, which is interesting. That whole case going on, but him against Georgia was unbelievable. So maybe that's this year. Last year, I thought it was Scadaboo against Texas.
Yes.
CJ Stroud against Georgia. Couple other ones. Justin Fields against Clemson, man, my God, where is that guy, Hayden? And we see flashes of it. That Pittsburgh Steelers game in week 1 last year. If he can just operate on 1.25 speed, a lot of people turn their podcasts up, he's fast enough already. He's got the arm strength, but man, you see the flashes and he's just always a tick too late, seemingly with where he wants to go with the football. So I'm not confident at this point because of what we've seen. You do look at some of the organizations he's been with. It's not like everyone else is going there and just killing it, when he's not. So I'm keeping a candle on. I will say, when you do look at the guys who have just managed to, again, reinvent themselves, Baker, Darnold, and all these different dudes, like Fields has the physical tools. So you'd like to think maybe he can figure out the mental spot, but man, for 2026, not looking.
Yeah, it's not going to be this year, I don't think, but I think maybe at some point I would like to, he's so frustrating because like, I agree. Like some of those games at Ohio State, it was like, what the hell am I even watching? Like he just like throwing the ball 60 yards down the field, like right into the breadbasket, and then was also outrunning everybody. I was like, how is this going to not work out? And then it didn't work out. So lesson learned. All right, let's go to the wide receivers. I've removed George Pickens from the equation here. Yeah. You're allowed to say Alec Pierce back to the Colts if you want to be not that interesting. I just said, let's assume he doesn't go to the Colts here, even though I think they probably want him back. Do you have an Alec Pierce destination aside from Indianapolis?
It's funny, Pickens and Pierce are kind of two marquee guys. I'm with you, like Pickens franchise tag or trade or anything, but those are actually the only two wide receivers in the NFL with 400 plus yards from strictly go routes over these past two seasons. So just guys who, again, make every single offense better. I think for both the young number one overall quarterback perspective and also getting Pierce a team that can pay him money, Raiders and or Titans or obviously, I think they make a lot of sense, man. The Cam Ward film, absolutely incredible, and he wasn't thrown to anyone. I don't love the week 18 right shoulder injury. Sounds like it wasn't as severe as initially reported. Hopefully that's nothing.
They came after you for that one, Ian. I was on team Ian there. Like you're like, hey, it's not great.
Right? It's not great. It got initially reported as a grade 3 one that they weren't going to have surgery on. Apparently it wasn't that serious, but yeah, it's not ideal, Hayden. And we see this every single year. Week 18 stuff happens to like these non-playoff teams and it kind of goes under the bus. So yeah, not great. So I hope Cam Ward's fine. I truly do, but yeah, not great. That'd be a lot of fun there. And then also just maybe not reuniting, but being Clint Kubiak's new Rashid Shaheed with the Raiders and obviously having Fernando Mendoza come in. Mendoza, man, he's already used to throwing the, white field stretchers like Charlie Becker. So adding Pierce in there, probably just a very easy transition for him. So those two getting paid make a lot of sense. I will say this will be maybe overkill, but a sneaky one. What if the Los Angeles Rams said, F it? We kind of got the cap space still. We're going all in because that's the one piece of the offense that they're already incredible. I get it. You can call them the best offense in the NFL, and I won't overly disagree with you. But they tried giving Tutu $10 million. He was a healthy scratch down the stretch. Like if you wanted one guy to just make the intermediate areas of field that much more open for Puka and Devontae, it'd be Pierce, man. Like they are one of those teams where you start looking at the effective cap space. Like they might be a dark horse to get in play.
Alec Pierce to the Rams would be exceptional. I mean, Matthew Stafford would make the most out of it. He would throw the ball down the field to him. So you're going to get all those go ball opportunities. And that would just make the covering them so impossible, man, because like, you're right. Like when they were like trotting out that rotation of third wide receivers, like the Mumfield and stuff, like give me a break. The ball wasn't going to them. But when you have Alec Pierce as that guy, and all of a sudden we're cooking with something. I agree with you though. I want Alec Pierce on the Titans. You said it, most cap space in the NFL. I liked what they got out of Chimere DK in the slot, but only as a slot. Calvin Ridley, he can be returned, and he can be a Z receiver. Alec Pierce as that vertical X. I think that's a very complimentary trio for Cam Ward. The Titans, 32nd in downfield catch rate last year. That is partially a Cam Ward problem, but that's not because Cam Ward doesn't have the arm talent to get that done and improve upon down the field. So I think it would be a layup line. They have the cap space to do it. Obviously, the Titans have a lot of holes to fill. But if Alec Pierce reaches the free agency market, why not give him like a pretty close to a blank check? You got to figure out what you have with Cam Ward, especially when you went with a defensive-minded head coach. I'd want to load up the offense and let Robert Saleh kind of figure things out defensively with some young draft picks.
Do you think he makes it? Because I think the one thing that's interesting is Michael Pittman, who's been really good. All right. He played through a broken back in 2024. It's like the one down year. He was playing great this last year until Rivers came in. But $5 million dead cap. And I think they would save $24 million if they do decide to release him. So again, I think Michael Pittman makes the Colts better. They're in the business of trying to win right now. But maybe it is a situation where they kind of make that Pittman versus Pierce decision, because that could be one of the bigger cap casualty situations.
Yeah, and they might even be able to get a draft pick for Michael Pittman. I know like the team would be like taking on like $25 million worth of Michael Pittman. That's probably like nearest like kind of cap, but it's hard to find Michael Pittmans out there. So maybe you get like a little throw in draft pick for that. Yeah. I think that'd be a very interesting decision for the Colts. Like, would you rather have Alec Pierce or Michael Pittman? They're so different. That's like kind of hard to like calculate. Would you have a good answer? Like just straight up who you would rather have, like Alec Pierce or Michael Pittman?
I think Downs and Warren can fill more of the needs that probably Pittman provides them. So
that's
probably Pierce,
true.
Or probably Pierce. Yeah.
I think I would go with Alec Pierce as well, and then see if you can kind of dangle Michael Pittman. But yeah, that would be a very interesting call for them. Less interesting call for the 49ers. Brandon Aiyuk forced his way out. I still can't believe what the hell happened with Brandon Aiyuk this year. Josh asked me like a good question, like how sure are we that Brandon Aiyuk like wants to play football? I didn't have a good answer. I'm not trying to get into the mind of one Brandon Aiyuk, but we have to find a landing spot because I've seen other players who like sat out for the year, like Calvin Ridley, eventually worked their way back into the NFL. It's hard to find these vertical X receivers who flashed like top 10-ish potential before. So I think he's going to be a free agent and he's probably going to make a lot of money. I'm not sure if it would be from me, but I'm very curious to see what you're going to say. Brandon Aiyuk, do you have a team fit?
And that's where I'm wondering, though, because he did seemingly just say peace to the entire 49ers organization. I don't know if anyone's going to be
his guaranteed money. It wasn't even just like he was like saying bye to like the team. He's like, and my guaranteed money, F it.
Right. So I don't know if teams are going to be like, yeah, here's the $30 million per year that he probably deserved after that incredible 2023 season. So I do wonder if there's a chance for, a Chiefs or a Bills or a team who wouldn't be in his usual market, who now can kind of give him that 1 year. Let's get your, hey, oh my gosh, November puff pieces start coming out about how Brandon Aiyuk integrated himself with the locker room and now he's, like his old self again. So I do wonder if some of those teams could get involved. Otherwise, Washington Commanders reuniting with Jaden Daniels. That was the team that we saw back in August. He was FaceTiming his old college quarterback. Just if you are looking for a pure, let's make the vibes right situation, I think it's got to be reuniting with Daniels with the Commanders or going to one of these top tier contenders like the Chiefs or Bills.
This is like the only answer. It's the Commanders. And my notes were he at least has friends there, Jaden, the front office. Maybe they get Debo Samuel re-signed there.
Anthony Lynn,
nothing else matters.
Former run game coordinator, kind of a,
Wow. Yeah. That's another, that's something. You got to come up with something to convince yourself that Brandon Aiyuk's actually going to work for us. They're also, on top of that, they have the 5th most cap space. I was looking at the Commanders roster. They have so many openings, like just in terms of the entire wide receiver room behind Terry McLaurin at this point, tight ends, I think running backs, obviously the secondary needs some work as well. So they're going to use all that cap space on other positions. So
slow.
They really are, man. They really are. But I do think this is like the only one. Now, you said the Chiefs. The Chiefs, after all of the disastrous like situation they've been dealing with their wide receiver room, going and getting Brandon Aiyuk would just be like too on the nose there. But I guess that we would be very excited in fantasy land. But that would be too much for me.
It could easily be a bust situation in fantasy. I know we've been hoping that one guy after another comes in, but I don't know about you, man, but I thought at the peak of Aiyuk's powers, 1,342 yards on 105 targets. And I just thought he could do even more. Like, you remember his first year or two in the league, they were giving him screens and reverses. Like, he has another level as a yak threat that they didn't need to tap into because they had Debo and Kittle and CMC. That's why the 49ers were the best offense in the NFL for 3 or 4 years. So I just think, again, a situation where we can see, the full, I think, skill set of Aiyuk tapped into really could be intriguing. So he'd be the best wide receiver in Kansas City since, obviously, Tyreek Hill left town. So that'd be interesting. The Bills, maybe I'm a little,
yes.
Dude, they're not going to throw in the ball.
They have no money though.
Yeah. But maybe Aiyuk isn't going to command that much. Again, that's why I think these could be possible depending on what his market is right now.
Yeah. I just think like prime of his career, you talked about the potential. Like, I think he's going to get paid a shit ton of money. Like, I think this is one of those things where, like, we're desperate, man. Like we've seen headache wide receivers get paid huge bags, and if the vibes are good for a little bit, you can get a good couple years. Like, obviously, like the Tyreek Hill stuff, that obviously was a disaster for a lot of the career. But in the first couple years for Miami, put up bonkers numbers, and like that thing could have gone sideways at any moment. So if you can think you're going to survive for like a year or two because you got like your friends involved, like I wouldn't be surprised if the Commanders gave him a huge bag here.
You know what, Hayden? This is going to be like the premier contract of free agency where it's going to be, 4 years, $120 million to the Commanders. What? They're signing up for that. And then we get the details, and there's like a very, very clear out after one of those 2 years. That's going to be the contract.
Yes, that's how it always comes out. I don't like to react to the contract until like the next day when like it's buried in Albert Breer's daily report that is like, oh, there's actual guaranteed money. But
right.
Here's another guy. Mike Evans, like I think the polar opposite for Brandon Aiyuk. You know exactly what you're getting for Mike Evans. It's 900 to 1,100 receiving yards every single year. Now, like he's a little bit of a retirement candidate. We're assuming that he's going to come back in play. I'm assuming the Buccaneers, they have all these wide receivers they don't know what to do with. Like maybe they're going to let him walk. Do you have a good Mike Evans landing spot?
He's another one where I think we could see a 1-year mercenary sort of, choose your $20 million sort of deal. So I do think he could be in play and kind of ring chase. I know he already got his ring with the, Buccaneers, Brady's and all that. So maybe he's good there, but pulling a Devontae Adams, and going to be an overqualified wide receiver too somewhere. So mention the Bills and Chiefs, don't need to go down there too far. The Ravens always seem to have this affinity with, kind of past their prime wide receivers in the 30s. So they're in play.
Yes.
The Patriots replacing Mac Hollins with Mike Evans. That sounds pretty good to me. And just be, I appreciate the quirkiness, Mac Hollins. Give it a rest for a little bit. All right, man. I feel like you hit a couple home runs with it. Like just chill out a little bit. I'm going to go with the 49ers, though, okay? They're actually low-key pretty wide receiver needy.
Yeah.
Hey, we got one.
I agree.
We got one.
Let's go.
Yeah, preach.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think he only wants to play for a contender at this point. And there's also this huge, Shanahan tree history with the ex-receiver, and they don't have that right now. And, I like Ricky Pearsall. They use him as, this vertical player. I think you can probably introduce Ricky Pearsall to some other stuff within the offense and let Mike Evans do a lot of those routes that Ricky Pearsall is running. Back shoulders in the red zone, I think would be good because they can't run block down there. Juwan Jennings is a free agent. George Kittle, who knows at this point? And then also I'll just mention CMC, who knows at this point after all the touches that he had. So Mike Evans will come in and be a breath of fresh air. We don't have to deal with weirdness in the locker room or on the streets of San Francisco. We're going to get somebody that's going to show up in August and be ready to play football. And I think Shanahan would love to have that. And I think that'd be very good for Brock Purdy.
I think we're checking a lot of boxes there, man. I do want to believe in Ricky Pearsall. And I just think, again, that early stretch, and it's so tough because he has, even his rookie year, just stretches of games where nothing happens, but you can kind of tell yourself, well, he's playing through this injury or that injury, or he literally got shot 6 weeks ago, which are very good excuses and everything. So I'm not trying to discourage that, but it is wild. And I just double checked this. He has 0 career credited missed tackles forced. And it's not like I'm watching his catches and being like, oh, PFF messed that up. Cause sometimes, you watch the actual missed tackles, it can be a little iffy. So he's just such a 0 after the catch. It doesn't really make sense because he is so elusive as a route runner. So that's my one kind of hesitancy with Ricky Pearsall. But no, man, I think Evans coming in makes a ton of sense, particularly if Juwan Jennings is going to be going elsewhere and just George Kittle come back from the Achilles. They're saying week 1 could be a thing, but I don't know, man. I've seen how these quarterbacks look coming back from Achilles. I'm worried that Kittle, particularly at his age, isn't exactly going to be the most dynamic guy in the world. Hopefully Christian McCaffrey keeps doing his thing. But yeah, man, this would give them just kind of that, similar to Devontae Adams, your red zone beast when you're inside the 10-yard line, go get him the football. So yeah, man, 49ers, let's go.
Yeah, I was expecting this to be my wild card play, but I'm glad that you showed up to the party with the same answer. This would be a breath of fresh air, just all around. Everyone can take a deep breath and enjoy it for Mike Evans. And just, it's the Cooper Kupp contract too. You're talking about, he's already won a ring, but you go to another contender. And I think Cooper Kupp got multiple years of guaranteed money for a decent clip. So I do think, and those weren't the best Cooper Kupp years that he was coming off of, and he's dealt with some injuries too, that I do think that Mike Evans will make plenty of money to come back and play some football. What's your overall analysis, just real quick, on the Buccaneers wide receivers? What are we supposed to do with these guys, assuming Mike Evans leaves? Do you have a clear answer, who you're going to be drafting first between Emeka, Chris Godwin? You're allowed to say Jalen McMillan if you're a true sicko.
I think I want to trust Ibuka earning whatever it was, 140 targets, and kind of look past the second half. And it was interesting to me, man, because I didn't draft any Ibuka hardly last year, just because I figured, the injuries fell so perfect for him and everything. And I don't know, man, I think I get spoiled watching the Buckeyes every Saturday because I was just well, he was never really number one on his team. He's really good at everything. I didn't think he really had a true elite trait. And maybe that's why when we did see him playing through that, midseason hamstring injury, just, 90% of Ibuka wasn't quite enough to go ahead and, give us those wide receiver 2 numbers. But again, a lot of different things. I think at the end of the day, again, 127 targets as a rookie. And he honestly was pretty freaking awesome during the first half of the year. That's enough to trust because, just to go over all my freaking misses from last year, Wan'Dale Robinson was someone who I was watching. I was come on, he's running these pivot routes on 3rd and 10. Is he even that good? Mm-hmm. If you can just sit back and say, dude, this guy got 140 targets and he's the wide receiver 60, just draft the guy. Okay. So Ibuka's more expensive than that. I get it, but I'm trying not to overthink a profile that, let's face it, is still pretty sweet.
Yeah. I will be drafting plenty of Emeka Egbuka. I think that he's very good, and it's hard to hit the post routes. The post routes come and go. hit on relentlessly in the first half of the season, and then they weren't on the second half. And I think that he can like not just be the post route guy. Like I would love to see him work underneath and over the middle because like I think he's plenty physical enough in that department as well. So that'd be fascinating if Mike Evans leaves and ends up with the 49ers. All right, another one, Travis Etienne. Tough decision for Jacksonville. They got some other free agents. He was obviously fantastic. They drafted 2 other rookies to kind of like, and those 2 profiles, just Bashal Tutin and LaQuint Allen's like, you have your pass protector, you have your like jitterbug on early downs. Like I think in theory, they're like, hey, like we can build the running back room with these 2 guys eventually. But Etienne absolutely balled the hell out. So you're allowed to say Jacksonville. You're also allowed to find another team for him.
I think Washington could be cool. Him and Aiyuk going over at the same time because they got everyone right now hitting free agency other than Bill Crosby Merritt. I do think Jaden Daniels could help actually open up some better rushing lanes than what Etienne really has seen throughout the big history of his career at this point. Jacksonville rushing yards before contact per carry for their running backs, 3rd in 2022. Not a coincidence. That was his most efficient year. Since then, 32nd, 25th, and 24th. And if you remember covering Etienne at Clemson as well, we had a big drop off in yards per carry going to the end of his senior year. And that really did go hand in hand with the offensive line falling off and not creating the same lane. So I will say, man, because for my money's worth, the 2 running backs in college football that have just taken my breath away the most, pause, whatever. But, Saquon Barkley and Travis Etienne, like those dudes were just one hitter, quitter, home runs, man, every single time they touched the ball. I feel like that Liz Frank almost took away Etienne's 100th, percentile extra gear. And it's just been frustrating not to necessarily always see that. But hey, man, was playing through some other injuries in 2024. It was good to see him get healthy in 2025, and particularly early on in the season, man. Looked a part of a legit RB1. So Washington would be fun. Jets, Cowboys, Seahawks, Chiefs, Washington, other than the Jags. Those are kind of 6 teams that just based on the free agents right now, I think could be in like the major RB1 conversation. Did you pick one of those for yours?
I went with the Texans, but I agree on all the other options as well there. I didn't really love the Woody Marks stuff personally this year. And I think that Woody Marks would like be able to be like a little more passing down guy. And that's where Etienne is a little bit less reliable there. I don't think it's going to be overly expensive, just like kind of the state of running backs, like 10, 12-ish $1 million for Etienne per year. You're going to save some money from moving on from Joe Mixon. Nick Chubb's not there. The caveat would be like, you can't just like draft or sign Etienne and like not address the offensive lines, like you said, with the yards before contact stuff. Like if you want your speed backs to actually create speed, they have to build up the speed by not being run into immediately. So there'd be a little bit of a caveat there, but I thought Etienne had a really nice bounce back season. And I think ultimately he's probably going to be a Jacksonville Jaguar again, just played too well. But if he does hit the open market, the Texans need to, I think, address the position after.
What do you think about Tutin overall? Because I don't know about you, like it just annoyed me. The entire community freaking out about him. I feel like a lot of that came at the expense of Etienne. That's the part I didn't like because Etienne was having a very nice year. Yes. You can be hyped out about Tutin, just don't bring Etienne into it. But Tutin does give me some of those like Chase Brown vibes where I think people are going to look at his explosive play rate. Spreadsheet versions are going to be like, oh man, look, this guy couldn't even create big runs. He looks like he's shot out of a cannon every single time he touches the ball. Yes. And like he ran into his blocker on that one swing pass on Monday Night Football. So now he has bad vision because that's how we talk about vision. One bad play kind of writes the whole book on that. Yeah. If, and it's a big if he can make it through this, kind of class, like I would be excited about Tutin as the lead back in Jacksonville.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you just got to fully trust whatever Liam Cohen's got dialed up, especially for the running backs. I thought Bashal Tutin checked like the athletic boxes that you want. That was not going to be something I was going to be doubting whatsoever. I thought there's some like clear rookie mistakes. I think he even scored a touchdown on, I think it was a screen where he ran the wrong way. Like you'll see the offensive linemen, I think, all go to the right. He went to the left, Cincy. But he was so athletic that he still scored a damn touchdown. So like, I think that probably explains why he didn't like fully get it going. I do think there's like some vision concerns. I think same thing with like RJ Harvey, where like if this thing turns around, I can totally see it. If he just becomes not trustworthy enough, I can also see that outcome. But that's kind of like the general like state of affairs. Like a 4th round pick. I think that's kind of like just what we should expect from this. So that's why I think Etienne will probably be back, but I do get the hype, and you can watch some highlights from him where he is legitimately shot out of a cannon. The LaQuint Allen kid, they got something there. Like it's not going to matter for fantasy, but that dude was like a wild man on special teams, like just like throwing his body around and then in there for pass protection. Like comes from Syracuse, like an air raid system, and just like a hammer and pass protection for like completely free. I thought that was going to be just an interesting kind of like headache that we have to deal with throughout the time. Let's pivot on to a couple of defensive players. The big one, Maxx Crosby. Do you have a trade candidate? Because he's not going to hit free agency. He's probably going to get a first-round pick plus maybe 2 first-round picks. We'll kind of see what the trade market comes up with. Obviously, the new coaching staff wants Maxx Crosby, obviously, but Maxx Crosby's like, fool me, the 4th time that we've hired a coach. I'm just going to say, it might be an organizational thing. Clearly in the prime of his career, total dog out there. Every team's going to want him. Do you have a good landing spot for Maxx Crosby?
Let's get a team that's used to trading high draft picks for a Raiders edge defender. Give me the Chicago Bears, man. I thought one of the more fun post-game moments. Caleb Williams saying that Maxx Crosby was the best player he's ever played against, and he was just absolutely incredible that game. Caleb knows ball, but yeah, man, you probably got to go up a 2026 first, but it's going to be later. Throw DJ Moore in there, and that actually helps us condense the passing game and feel better about fantasy projections. Give him another, second or third rounder. Honestly, I thought maybe the best game the Bears front 7 played was against the Rams in the divisional round. So kudos to them. Maybe they are building on something at that point, but just overall in the year, 29th in pressure rate and 26th in havoc rate. That is one of those stats I like using. It's more in college football circles, but basically pressures, batted passes and PBUs, interceptions, forced fumbles, and tackles for a loss or no game. You can kind of take that rate, if you want to with the defenses. So love me some havoc. And if you look at the top edge defenders in creating havoc over the last 3 seasons, Myles Garrett, Micah, Josh Hines, Allen, Aiden Hutchinson, and yes, Maxx Crosby. So good culture guy too. I mean, the fact he's stuck with the Raiders this long, generally been pretty positive, is impressive in his own right. So Maxx Crosby to the Bears. Let's go.
This would be the one where if you had to say, all right, one of these things has to come to fruition, I think Maxx Crosby on the Bears would be so good. And I have the same exact notes. Send DJ Moore over to the Raiders. Like, they can use a vertical guy in the offense for Fernando Mendoza, and they can't cut DJ Moore contractually. They have to find a trade partner. They need defensive line help. You're talking about the culture. Like, the culture is like super important to Ben Johnson. You can tell that they need that on the defensive side of the ball. Maxx Crosby just rules. And I think it was a really good point. I forgot that Maxx Crosby game against the Bears, they were throwing everything they could at Maxx Crosby, and it was just like, it didn't fucking matter, man. Like, they just did not have somebody that could hold up one-on-one against them. So I'm sure that their scouting department and the head coach and everybody's like, all right, let's get this guy on our own damn team, because he was terrorizing us. And also, Bears ready to win now. Like, they're ready. Like, it's time to go. Like, let's little cherry on top piece and let Caleb ascend, and then you have like an actual needle mover on defense. This would be great stuff. Quickly, DJ Moore, what the hell are we supposed to do with this? Like, is he good? Is he bad? Like what role? Like, any of this? Dude,
right when he'd have 2 or 3 straight weeks of literally like 10 total receiving yards, and then as soon as you give up on him, he's scoring 2 touchdowns the next game. So need to watch it back, man. Rome and Burden. I mean, it's not like anyone in Chicago was exactly, just a model of consistency throughout the season. So would need to go back through and check it, with everything. Seemed like he was on the other end of a lot of the Caleb Williams, just wizardry going on, which, yes, you got to give Caleb all that credit and everything. But I will say, and I noticed this too when I was watching some of Wandale from this last year, I wonder, and personally, and maybe I don't give enough credit sometimes to the wide receivers for also getting open on these scramble drills, because my mouth would just open watching freaking Jackson Dart, pull off one crazy, off script play after another, and he kept finding Wandale. And you do got to give some credit to those wide receivers who can be enough on the same page off script, which is kind of ironic for DJ Moore because it felt like he wasn't on the same page with Caleb, when they were working within structure. But long story short, I don't think he's exactly trending in the best direction. We've probably already seen the prime years of DJ Moore, but I still think he can be a quality wide receiver too, which is probably what he'd be asked to do with the Raiders, ideally when they bring in a real wide receiver.
Yeah, I would just like let him run wind sprints down the field, and then hopefully he's fast enough to get open and some like runaway routes, some crossing routes. I think that's just the best you're going to get out of him. He's never going to like line up and like the scramble drill stuff is going to come and go. He's not going to settle down the right zones and stuff. Just like, he's sure is fast, man. So I would throw the ball to him down the field, and hopefully you get like the Justin Fields year with him where they connected on like 5 or 6 passes that went for 50 plus yards, and a lot of those were touchdowns. And like, I would just kind of play that game with him. Scramble drill stuff is very important. That was something when I've been starting to watch the prospects, and like that's something I'm keeping a tab on, is like, how much scramble drill production am I getting out of you? Because I do think that's a very, very big trait. And Carnell Tate is actually one of the guys who I thought was actually very good at that. We'll get to him in a second, though. Yeah. We'll go with either one of the edge rushers, Trey Hendrickson, Jalen Phillips. They get it done a little bit differently, age a little bit different as well. I kind of just group these guys in together. These are maybe going to get the biggest bag in free agency? Trey Hendrickson, Jalen Phillips. Do you have a landing spot for either one of the edge rushers?
Got reunion season all the way around. Jalen Phillips to the Cowboys to team up with Eagles DC Christian Parker, and then Trey Hendrickson, the Colts to team up with Lou Anarumu from his days in Cincinnati together. So both dudes, I mean, particularly Phillips, everything he did is legit top 10, win rate, pressure rate, and all that stuff upon getting to the Eagles. Obviously, I would say he's more so the crown jewel, just being 27 in May versus, 32 in December for Hendrickson. So either way, though, I just want the Cowboys to please get one of these guys, because all of a sudden, as horrific as that defense was, now they got one of the better defensive tackle rooms in the league. The most common mock draft pairing, I'm not sure if you had it, but Sonny Styles to the Cowboys would give them and Overshown an extra year removed from the injury. Those guys can go sideline to sideline. That'd be like prime Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch for the Cowboys, again, just being so fast up the middle. And then they have another first-round pick that they're probably going to use on Howell or whoever, one of those other first-round edge defenders. So we got plenty of work to do with covering guys in the back end. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's going to be a great defense, but I do think, again, if they can nail one of these big free agents, hopefully get 2 studs with their first round picks, they could go from 32nd to 17th, 16th, and that's enough with that offense, man.
Well, your answers were way better than mine. I just wrote down the Chargers because they don't have anybody at edge rusher right now. They have Odafe Owe to re-sign there. He went absolutely berserk for them in like the last half of the season, but Khalil Mack's old. He's a free agent. They've lost some guys. And Harbaugh's going to want some big guys. Both those guys check those boxes. And then also Chargers third in cap space. Like, remember when they were getting rid of Keenan, like all those guys, and like everybody was on the table to get released, like they've worked past those issues. So like this is like the first year where they're actually going to be able to make some big moves in terms of signing some free agents. So I think that they would be pretty interesting. They have I think the room to sign Odafe Owe and another couple big free agents. Obviously we want some trenches there, but yeah, I like the Cowboys call and the Colts call. Better answers than me. All right. You're a huge Buckeyes guy. Working through all these prospects. They're all Buckeyes. First question. Where were you in the national championship? It makes no sense. This defense is ridiculous. How did anyone move the ball over the middle of the field there's 3 guys who I think are exceptional athletes and know what the hell they're doing. And you have Matt Patricia. What the hell happened?
Dude, I mean, I will say Miami, they scored 17 points on the defense. They had the pick 6. Last touchdown, Ohio State kind of did the thing where they were marching down the field. Okay. I'm not taking anything away from Miami. Those dudes are freaking physical on the line of scrimmage, but all right. Miami scored 17 points. Indiana scored 13. I know we're not talking Mendoza. I do wonder if Mendoza would be as locked in as the number 1 overall for a couple of those lower scoring games at the end went a different direction, but they didn't. He's got the clutch gene, whatever. So just unfortunate, man. Red zone troubles, particularly in that Indiana game, man. They had 3 possessions get inside the 20-yard line. They had 3 total points come away from it. And that's what makes the whole Arthur Smith thing that much more potentially frustrating. I've come around in my stages of grief to be like, you know what? It's a former NFL head coach. It's our college OC. It'll probably be fine. But, man, the biggest complaint in Columbus was the fact that, again, taking Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate off the field for these multi-tight end sets. And now we have the guy who loves using multi-tight end sets more than just about anyone. So frustrating there. And, for a team that worked at one of the slowest paces in college football, man, they just didn't leave themselves many outs. So I think both those games, they only had 3 or 4 total possessions in the second half, and they weren't perfect enough to get it done.
I got to ask you about 2 of the prospects that stand out to me. First question, we're fantasy guys. Carnell Tate, give me the scouting report right now before we get all the measurables and all that type of stuff. On first watch, he's my 7th overall prospect. I wouldn't put him in that God tier prospect, but he's a damn good one. Early declare, the whole 9 yards, average almost 80 yards per game. What should we expect out of Carnell Tate?
My comp is Corey Davis if he got to face the Patriots every week. So if you guys are old enough to remember, he owned New England every time he played them. Yeah. Similar body type. I think we'll see the draft capital go there as well. And honestly, their games kind of match up a little bit. So Carnell, silky, smooth double moves. I mean, Ohio State, man, anytime they're kind of between the 40s, they love taking these kind of deep play action shot plays. He usually was on the other end of those. I think his contested catches this last year was 13 for 15 or something ridiculous. So I know it's not the most sticky things, but he goes up there and wins the ball. I don't see a ton from him after the catch, which is kind of the one concern. But you know what? At the same time, Marvin Harrison Jr., which may be a bad example because we haven't seen that work out well, but Ohio State, they're very deliberate with how they use their kind of wide receiver. So it's not like Carnell is being given, the Makai Lemon, heavy screen doses and these short crossers to kind of create the yak in the first place. So no, awesome player. And then also, dude, just going back and seeing everything he did, 5-star and just earning early playing time, being a starter on the national championship run run and all that, contributing as a true freshman. Just very, very tough to nitpick anything about Carnell Tate.
I see it the same exact way. My comp and the way you were describing him makes me like double down on this. I think he's George Pickens, man. And I think like it's not going to take the third, fourth year. Like I think there's a lot of George Pickens to this. And I think like George Pickens, I do think there's more yards after the catch ability in there.
Yeah.
Nothing too crazy, but I do think you can see that eventually. But all those big post moves or double moves down the field, the big post routes, the contested catches, like there's a little bit of a toe drag with them as well, which we've seen George Pickens be able to execute. So huge fan of him. I would be pretty surprised if he's not, like a top 10-ish pick. If he goes to the Chiefs, man, it's going to be a full-blown party. But I think the Giants could take him. There's a couple teams, the Saints, all those guys in there. And then the other one, the big debate that I'm having internally, and I think every NFL draft analyst is, Arvell Reese. Total monster. I think he's going number 2 overall. The question is going to become, how do you deploy him? Do you use him exactly how Matt Patricia, somebody has been in the NFL forever, how he used him, which was as an off-ball linebacker who you would walk him up to the edge on occasion. He would destroy tight ends. And then he also would be like diagnosing screens, making on-field tackles as an off-ball linebacker. Or do you say, F all that? He's going to be an edge rusher. We're going to try to make him Micah Parsons, put on a little bit of weight here. And edge rushers make a lot more money than linebackers. So I think it's a legit debate. I'm not sure after you watched Arvell Reese for the last couple of years where you stand on this one.
It's kind of funny, man, because he came out of, I don't want to say nowhere, but like he was the number 3 backer in 2024 on a defense that primarily is kind of that 4-2-5 setup. So he flashed a little bit, but then that Texas game happened and it was like, good God, all over the field. And, you see him running plays down the screens and they use him as a spy a lot of times, like Demon Williams, that Washington quarterback. That dude can fly, and seeing like Arvell like literally beat him to the corner, probably with 70 extra pounds on his frame. Like it really is.
It was that rep was ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah.
So again, comp for Arvell Reese for me is literally just Thanos, because he can do every single thing out there that you want him to do, and so powerful as well. So I think you want him moving forward. That's kind of the big thing. I don't need him chasing tight ends down the seam or anything like that. But yeah, man, if it's a 1st and 10 or a run first situation and you want to put him over the center, I think that's fine because of the sideline to sideline ability. So maybe Micah Parsons-esque in terms of like, I want him getting after the passer. But if you go back more so some of those earlier Parsons years with the Cowboys, like he could be rushing off the edge. He could also be rushing right up the center. Like just move him around, be creative, and let that dude take over games, man. Because he was doing that just so often, particularly in the first half of last year.
Yeah, I think the moving forward part is the requirement. I think I just like him as an off-ball linebacker, though, and just keep moving him forward. Like be creative with how you're going to use your off-ball linebacker with him. And we see this across the league. Like there's a lot of defenses where they have both their backers in the A gap. And then you got to figure out if they're going to be rushing the passer or they're going to be dropping back. And obviously you can do the same thing off the edge with him. And I think it's just instincts, man. Like there's so many times where he's just like a guard's coming up to him after like a combo block. And like the guard doesn't even get a freaking hand on him because he's like moving laterally so quick. It's unbelievable. I think he's going to end up being a linebacker, just looking at the Jets defense. They already have a couple edge rushers for like the 3-4 defense that they're going to run. So I think it'd be maybe a little bit overkill, and they don't really have an off-ball linebacker right now. And I think he's just going to be the best off-ball linebacker in the NFL soon. He does it totally different than Fred Warner. Fred Warner is infinitely better in coverage, but man, this dude is like, he's legit special. So very exciting prospect.
I will say real quick, Hayden, I gotta give you one last comp. It's my favorite one of the entire cycle for another Buckeye. Caleb Downs. Have you seen the Denzel Washington Equalizer movies?
I've not. I've famously seen no movies.
You're missing out. Caleb Downs is the equalizer, okay? The whole point of these movies is Denzel Washington is a freaking badass former CIA guy who basically sees things before they happen. He's not the most, big or jack guy, but he just still beats the crap out of everyone. Caleb Downs is the equalizer. Him and Jeremiah Smith have been the best players on this Ohio State team over the last 2 years. I saw Dane Brugler saying today that some of these scouts he's talking to believe Caleb Downs is the best safety they have ever evaluated. And we can talk Eric Berry, there's certainly Derwin James of the world. And I don't think anyone's beaten Sean Taylor. Okay. But that's, quite a few years in the past now, just incredible, man. And we're going to see, I think I know the top 10 safeties have kind of become a thing of the past, but man, if anyone's going to break it, it should be Caleb Downs.
Caleb Downs is exceptional, man. Like he's like another one of these guys, 5-star recruit, goes to Alabama for the first season, 107 tackles as a safety. I mean, like that is absurd stuff. And then on tape, I think he's going to like get the tight end eraser build. And like, there are so many times where like the tight end's like crossing over the middle and just like stop running your route. Just like go tie your shoe or something, because Caleb Downs is just completely stopped that. He tackles, he runs downfield. Like he's got like the nick and man worry. Like, is he a nickel? Is he a backer? Is he a strong safety? Like it doesn't matter in the way that the NFL defenses are being used right now. He's all of it, man. Like I adjust for positional value in all of my rankings. Like I hate just the big boards. That's like, I don't know where I'd rank or where I'd actually draft these guys, but I have Jeremiah Love, my second overall prospect. It's like, I don't know what to do with that information. I always just straight up adjust for positional value. I have him 8th overall, man. Like he's exceptional. Like there's nothing bad I could say about Caleb. I don't think he's quite as athletic as the Derwin James types, but he's got everything else, and he's still quite athletic. That's not going to be a big problem for him. But yeah,
what is the equalizer, Hayden? He's the equalizer. What a defense!
I'll try to watch that. I got a plane ride tomorrow. Maybe I'll throw on the equalizer as I'm watching some more Caleb Downs film for you. This is a lot of fun. You're obviously promoting as much content as you possibly can, because you're producing as much content as you possibly can. Everyone's already following you on X, I'm sure. What do you got over on YouTube? Previews, like reviews? You're doing everything, you and Dwayne.
Oh yeah, man. Fantasy Live Show, just grinding through the off season like you and Josh and everyone else out there. So if you guys want to check that out, that's cool. It's a free country though. So, catch me on Twitter doing some writing stuff on the side. I will say that real quick, there's a friend of our community, Tom Strachan, really just cool dude. He's really into best ball and everything. His account unfortunately got hacked. So if you guys are in the Twitter streets at NFL_T Strack, again, it just sucks. And they're getting so much better at scamming us. So give our guy Tom a follow and that would be great. But man, great catching up with you.
That is a very good shout out. We love Tom over on just an underdog at large. Like not even just like Josh and I in the content space. Like we love Tom. Make sure to go follow him. Great shout out there. Good catching up with you as always. I'm always reviewing my stuff first, then I go and make sure I'm not crazy. And you're one of the first people I always just double check and make sure I'm on the right scent here. So I'll be back next week, later in the week. I come back from Mexico, I think on on Tuesday or something like that. So enjoy the 3-day weekend. I'll be in Cabo, and I'll see you guys back on Wednesday with an unnamed show. Like and subscribe. Peace.